The Matrix changed my life, and then over these years, it's changed so many other people's lives.
They had written something that I had never seen, but in a way, something that I'd always hoped for.
Keanu Reeves has been the heart of the Matrix for years, but there has always been one truth he never spoke about, until now. At 60, he's finally breaking his silence on something that's been kept in the shadows for decades. In an emotional moment, he revealed a secret that could change how fans see the legendary sci-fi franchise forever. What made him stay quiet for so long? And why is he speaking out now? Stay with us, because this revelation is bigger than anyone expected. The Architect's Hidden Truth, the Matrix's ultimate illusion. To truly grasp the deeper meaning behind the Matrix and the shocking revelation Keanu Reeves has finally shared, we need to revisit one of the most pivotal scenes in The Matrix Reloaded: Neo's meeting with the Architect. This sequence, often overlooked for its complexity, holds the key to understanding the entire franchise. What seems like an ordinary exposition scene is actually a meticulously crafted moment of psychological manipulation, revealing a level of control far beyond what anyone imagined. One of the most unsettling lines from the Architect is, "Hope. It is the quintessential human delusion, simultaneously the source of your greatest strength and your greatest weakness." This single statement encapsulates the entire theme of the Matrix. It suggests that even rebellion is a calculated illusion, an expected outcome factored into the machine's grand design. But what makes this scene so unsettling? At first glance, the room itself appears sterile and clinical, a stark contrast to the warm, almost mystical presence of the Oracle. The Architect, dressed in pristine white, speaks with robotic precision, drowning Neo in a sea of calculated words. But this isn't just intellectual jargon. It's a tactic. The flood of information is meant to disorient Neo, forcing him to think within the narrow boundaries the machines have set for him. The entire conversation is an illusion of choice, an expertly designed method to guide Neo down a predetermined path. The screens around Neo serve as a chilling reminder of his lack of control. They don't simply display his past or predict his reactions, they dictate them. Every act of defiance, every burst of anger is no surprise. The system isn't merely responding to Neo, it's directing his every move. His rebellion, his identity as the One, is just another function in the machine's plan. But here's the real shock. Neo isn't the first. The Architect reveals that this is the 6th iteration of the Matrix. 5 others have come before him, each one unknowingly walking the same path. Every time, Zion is destroyed and rebuilt. Each time, a new One believes they're breaking free, when in reality, they're merely following a scripted cycle. So when Keanu Reeves unveils the truth about the Matrix, we're left with a haunting question. Was Neo ever truly free? Or was he always just another pawn in a game far beyond his understanding? But maybe that question doesn't just apply to Neo. Maybe it applies to Keanu himself. His journey in Hollywood mirrors the Matrix in ways most people never realized. And to truly grasp why, we must return to where it all started. So, stay tuned. The unlikely voice behind the Matrix's hidden message. By the late 90s, Keanu was already a well-known name in Hollywood, thanks to iconic roles in Speed, Point Break, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. But unlike many actors chasing fame and blockbuster success, Keanu never seemed to be one to play the Hollywood game. He wasn't interested in being the next big action star. Instead, he gravitated toward offbeat indie films and experimental projects, often avoiding the glitz of mainstream movies. So, when the Matrix script came his way, it wasn't a given that he'd jump on board. In fact, Keanu didn't fully understand it at first. The script wasn't like anything he had seen. The Wachowskis, brilliant but unconventional, had crafted a narrative that felt more like a philosophical thesis than a traditional action flick. There were mind-bending ideas about simulated realities, the illusion of free will, and the struggle to break free from what's been created for us. The concepts were heavy, unsettling, and most of all, unfamiliar territory for a studio-driven blockbuster. A lot of actors passed. Will Smith turned it down in favor of Wild Wild West, and Nicolas Cage rejected it to stay with his family. The studio wasn't convinced it would even work, and they certainly didn't have Keanu in mind for the role. Yet, something about the script caught Keanu's attention. Perhaps it was the mystery, the challenge, or the sense that it was saying something no one else in Hollywood dared to voice. Keanu's decision to join the project wasn't driven by the promise of fame or fortune. Instead, he signed on because he felt a deep, almost personal connection to the story, even if he didn't fully understand it right away. What followed was one of the most intense training regimens of his career. The silent weight of the Matrix. When we talk about the Matrix, it's easy to get lost in its mind-bending effects, the groundbreaking visuals, or the philosophical undercurrent. But behind the sleek action and digital world, there's a deeper, more personal story, one that Keanu Reeves was quietly living while embodying the role of Neo. In 1999, the same year The Matrix was released, Keanu was grappling with a heartbreak no one could imagine. A few months before the film hit theaters, he and his partner, Jennifer Syme, had lost their daughter, stillborn at 8 months. The tragedy devastated them. Soon after, the couple separated, though they remained close. But just 2 years later, Jennifer died in a car crash. In an instant, the family Keanu had hoped for was gone. Despite the overwhelming grief, Keanu didn't seek the spotlight. He didn't make his pain public. Instead, he kept working, pouring himself into his roles without drawing attention to his personal battles. To most of the world, Keanu was just another actor in the blockbuster The Matrix. But for those closest to him, it was clear that the grief he carried found its way into Neo. The scenes where Neo feels lost and uncertain weren't just scripted moments. They were real reflections of Keanu's own sense of disconnection. That haunting feeling of isolation wasn't something Keanu had to force. It was a part of him, living within him. On set, Keanu was described as focused, yet distant. He wasn't there for fame. He was there to work. But in a way, the work became an outlet for his pain. It allowed him to express what words couldn't. Even as Neo emerged as a hero, there was always an undercurrent of loneliness in him. The weight of knowing the truth, but being unable to share it, was something Keanu carried, both on and off screen. Jennifer's death shifted Keanu's perspective. He stopped chasing blockbusters and disappeared between roles. He became a man who lived quietly, seeking solace in simple acts of kindness, offering his seat on the subway, buying ice cream for a crew member, and donating millions to charity anonymously. It was as if giving back was his way of surviving the pain. Through The Matrix, Keanu transformed grief into something more, something profound. He wasn't just playing a character, he was channeling his own journey, making the film a reflection of resilience and quiet strength. And in that, it resonated with audiences far beyond the screen. The Matrix sequels. By the time The Matrix became a global sensation, the pressure for the sequels, Reloaded and Revolutions, was overwhelming. Fans weren't just eager for another movie. They demanded answers. What is The Matrix? What happens after waking up? Is there something beyond the illusion of the real world? The Wachowskis had big ideas, but not all of them made it to the screen. The sequels were carefully crafted, not rushed, but they were undeniably altered to meet the studio's expectations. More action, more spectacle, and a clearer narrative were prioritized to ensure another hit. Yet, this was far from the Wachowskis' original vision. Early drafts of the sequels were more philosophical, layered with complexity and daring ideas. In one version, Neo would discover that the real world wasn't real either, that it was another level of the simulation, a safety net for those who reject the Matrix but still need a system to live in. This was a version of rebellion that offered a false freedom, but it was stripped down to just a single cryptic scene with the architect, a moment many viewers missed or misunderstood. The sequels also had plans to explore reincarnation, karmic cycles, and the illusion of separation. Neo and Trinity were meant to be more than lovers or rebels. They were soul-bound figures who were repeatedly reincarnated to help others wake up. But these ideas didn't test well in early screenings. Too strange, too complicated. The final product, while still unique, became safer, more of an action-packed sci-fi adventure, with fewer uncomfortable questions about society. Keanu, never one to publicly criticize the changes, was reportedly invested in preserving the mythology of the Matrix and keeping its deeper themes intact. Yet, he had to play by the studio's rules. The sequels had to be profitable, not provocative. The ending, in particular, was altered. Neo's final act, originally meant to be a complete rejection of the system itself, was rewritten to fit a more traditional Hollywood mold. A Christ-like sacrifice, peace with the machines, and a neatly tied-up conclusion. Keanu never voiced his frustrations, but his silence spoke volumes. There was always a sense that behind the wirework and CGI, something real had been buried, a truth that might never be fully revealed. That lingering silence, however, was eventually broken in a way no one anticipated, leading to the unexpected return of the Matrix universe in 2019. The return of Neo, a journey through time and emotion. When The Matrix Resurrections was announced in 2019, it sparked mixed reactions. Some fans eagerly welcomed the return of Neo and Trinity, while others questioned the need for a sequel. Was this just another Hollywood attempt at reviving a classic, or was there something more profound behind it? For Keanu Reeves, it was never just about bringing back a character. It was about something deeply personal. And that made all the difference. This new chapter in the Matrix universe didn't originate from a boardroom strategy, but from the heart of Lana Wachowski, who returned to direct without her sister, Lily. The decision to revisit the story wasn't fueled by financial gain or public demand. It was grief. Lana had lost both of her parents and a close friend, and in the midst of that sorrow, she found solace in resurrecting Neo and Trinity. In her own words, "These two characters died, and I didn't want to deal with that kind of grief, so I brought them back." That sentiment struck a chord with Keanu. He was no stranger to loss. He had endured the passing of his daughter, his longtime partner, and dear friends. Returning to the Matrix wasn't just stepping into an old role, it was a chance to explore themes of loss, memory, and healing in a world that had always been about more than machines and digital illusions. He agreed to the project, not to relive the past, but to craft a story that reflected the weight of experience. This wasn't the same Keanu Reeves from 1999. At 57, he was quieter, more introspective, carrying the wisdom of decades. When asked how it felt to return, he didn't talk about the action sequences or the special effects. Instead, he spoke about love, nostalgia, and the strange sense of coming home to something that had never truly left him. The Matrix Resurrections defied expectations. Rather than amplifying the spectacle, it delved deeper into the meaning of reboots, sequels, and storytelling itself. This time, The Matrix wasn't just a dystopia of agents and resistance fighters, it was something eerily familiar. A world of screens, social media, and constant distractions disguised as freedom. Neo, now Thomas Anderson once more, lived in a reality that felt subtly wrong, yet impossible to define. He was medicated, monitored, and repeatedly told to silence his instincts. It was unsettlingly relatable. Trinity's return was just as impactful. She was more than a love interest. She was the missing piece of Neo's awakening, the one who reminded him of who he truly was. Their reunion, wrapped in sci-fi spectacle, felt both cathartic and emotionally raw, bringing closure while opening new doors. Keanu's response made the film's themes resonate even more. In an Esquire interview, he watched a fan-made tribute, a montage of his career, behind-the-scenes moments, and acts of kindness. He sat in silence, his eyes filled with emotion, and after a long pause, simply said, "That's wow." It was a rare glimpse of pure, unscripted emotion, one that spoke louder than any promotional speech ever could. But was this just nostalgia, or did it reveal something deeper, something Keanu had been holding back about The Matrix all along? Stay tuned to find out. Keanu Reeves and the truth about The Matrix. Most people know The Matrix as a groundbreaking sci-fi film, defined by bullet time, black trench coats, and deep philosophical themes. But for Keanu Reeves, it was always something more. For years, he played along with what was allowed, sticking to the script when discussing its meaning in interviews. But in 2024, his perspective shifted. Keanu sat across from Stephen Colbert to mark the 25th anniversary of The Matrix. The conversation began as expected, light-hearted nostalgia, a few jokes about dodging bullets. But when Colbert asked what the film meant to him now, Keanu's expression shifted. His smile faded. His posture stiffened. He hesitated for a moment before saying softly, "It changed my life." Then, after a pause, "And I think it changed how people see the world." The audience fell silent. There was something about the way he said it, not as an actor reminiscing about a role, but as someone who had carried an unspoken truth for years. Colbert pressed him, asking how. Keanu didn't answer directly. Instead, he quoted the architect from The Matrix Reloaded. "Hope. It is the quintessential human delusion, simultaneously the source of your greatest strength and your greatest weakness." The words lingered in the air. It didn't sound like a rehearsed reference. It sounded like a message. Fans picked up on it instantly. And what happened in the months following that interview gave that moment a whole new meaning. For the first time in 2 decades, Keanu opened up behind closed doors. In a quiet conversation among close collaborators, he admitted the truth he had been discouraged from saying. The Matrix was never just about robots or a distant dystopian future. "They made me hide this," he said. There were scenes in the original script, scenes where Neo discovers that even the so-called real world is part of the illusion. A second layer. Another Matrix. The studio shut it down, Keanu revealed. They said it was too much, too confusing, too dangerous. He paused, then added, "They didn't want people questioning reality like that. They wanted something simple, a hero, a love story, a clear enemy, not something that makes you look at your phone and wonder if you're actually free." For those who heard him speak that day, it wasn't bitterness they detected in his voice. It was exhaustion. The kind that comes from carrying the truth for too long. And looking back, it all makes sense. The unanswered questions, the deeper philosophical threads that never fully paid off, the way Keanu always seemed to avoid discussing the film's true meaning. But now, after 25 years, he was done playing along. The Matrix was supposed to wake people up, he reportedly told a friend. But the final cut? It just rocked them back to sleep. It entertained them instead of freeing them. That one statement reframed everything. Neo was never meant to be a savior from machines. He was meant to be a mirror, a warning, a message that the systems we live within, our routines, our screens, our carefully curated digital lives, are just as controlling as the simulated prison he escaped from. And Keanu? He's lived both sides of it. The fame, the grief, the illusion of choice. He carried the role of Neo not just as a character, but as a truth he wasn't allowed to say outright. Until now. At 60, Keanu Reeves was finally ready to say it out loud. They made me hide this, but it's always been there. You just have to look closer. And just like that, the fiction cracked. The red pill was never just a plot device. It was a challenge, a choice, one they never wanted us to truly make. But what do you think Keanu really meant when he said, "They made me hide this"? Was the Matrix designed to keep us blind? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe.